Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me today. It's a great honor to speak in front of each and every one of you. So a quick introduction of myself. My name is Mike Kayamori, and I'm the founder CEO of QUOINE. So we have a t-shirt as well. So I started QUOINE 3.5 years ago while I was still at Softbank. So I did get permission from my senior management, but before that, I was in charge of Softbank Group's Asia operations, joint ventures, investments, partnerships. So we had a joint venture with Singtel, which is the largest telecom in Southeast Asia. Also, I was in charge of all operations in India. So we had a joint venture with Bharti Group. We also invested in companies like Snapdeal, Ola, others. And I was also in charge of Gunho Asia. So Gunho has a famous mobile game called Puzzle and Dragons. And with the cash that they generated over $1 billion every year. I was in charge of their fund that made investments in new and emerging mobile companies. To this day, the one investment that I didn't do was Pokemon Go, and I had carried. So that's something that to this day is something that I should have persuaded Morishita, the CEO of Gunho. And before that, I was a VC in the Valley. It's Globespan Capital Partners. We managed about 1.3 billion under management. Invested in companies like Zynga, Second Life, which is like the early days of the VR, AR. It had this virtual augmented world called Vivid Labs. I brought that to Japan. And I started my career at Mitsubishi. And I think you can see down there it says Natural Lawson. That's I made it. So when we acquired Lawson, I wanted a convenience store that was tailored towards female. So until then, Lawson was very blue, very man, it was a convenience store, but I wanted to bring a little bit more touch, so that an office lady can come in and feel comfortable going. So we started the Tennan Yakitate Pan, so in-store bakery, in-store rice cooking and all these things, and so that's as of today still I feel attached with Natural Lawson. Although we were supposed to have like 2,000 stores in 5 years, I think we still only have about 300. So that's a little bit about myself. And so when I was at Singapore, so I was sent to Singapore because I was in charge of SoftBank's Asia operations. I met my co-founder. So I met my co-founder, and his name is Mario, and at the time he was the CPO of Credit Suisse APAC, CPO of their fixed income, currency, and commodity division. So essentially he built fixed income bond exchanges, commodity exchanges, currency exchanges, and this was 4 years ago, before Mt. Gox happened, and we knew that there wasn't a professional grade exchange, right? So it was built by people who were more tech enthusiasts, or they were more ideology driven, anti-government, free society. We knew that crypto will go mainstream one day. So we thought that there was an opportunity for bankers to build banking grade financial trading platforms. So we immediately connected. We knew that the future of money was going to be digital, right? And it was going to be, there was no need for a branch. Like I haven't been to a branch in 3 years unless I have to do an international money transfer. And so it's going to be like cashless, branchless, borderless, and we knew that was going to happen. So obviously, as Mario has been building exchanges for 20 odd years, we decided to build one of the most advanced, secure, reliable, available, and compliant exchanges in the world, and it's called QUOINE Exchange. It's QUOINEX. So we started this out of Singapore because I was in Singapore and Mario was in Singapore as well. And we bootstrapped it, and then I raised it through my friends and family. So we raised about 20 million so far through equity, and we still have 20 million in the bank. So we're profitable. We're 70 plus people in 4 locations, and just from a numbers perspective. So this is the So this is the 24-hour volume. So Bitfire obviously is one of the best known in Japan. They're also known as being doing fake volume. So I wouldn't comment any more than that. They're also under litigation with theft. They have a class action. But putting that aside, we're right here. So that's about 36,000 Bitcoins, and 46,000 Bitcoin is about, what is this, 6,000 US dollars right now? So about 250 million, 260 million of transaction volume in 24 hours, right? So if, like on any given month, we'll do maybe $5 to $10 billion worth of transaction. And we're also we're the first global exchange to be licensed and registered in Japan. So everyone else is a domestic exchange in Japan, but we're the first global exchange to be registered, regulated, and licensed in Japan. So our product, our main flagship product is QUOINE Exchange, and I'll show you. Can you see this? So it's not for the average Joe, but it's a professional grade platform where I want to trade Bitcoin JPY, or Bitcoin USD, or Ethereum JPY, or Bitcoin Cash JPY. So these are order books that's available, aggregated from the global exchanges, and these are the trading feeds. I also have like watch list, all the charts. The other interesting thing is we're also a B2B. So we have a B2C element where customers can just sign up and enjoy our service, but we white label our platform to Japanese financial institutions, right? So why compete when all these Japanese financial institutions have millions of customers, right? They'll provide equities, fixed income, 401k, or NISA. They're going to add crypto, right? So we provide a turnkey solution for our partners, and that's where we're strong. So we have a B2C element, but B2B is one of our strengths. So when I show, so this is a real production dashboard. And if you can see this here, that's 3,786万円. So I put 500万円 here. And I would go to my partners and, hey, it's so easy to buy Bitcoin, it's so easy to buy Ethereum. And when I realized, it went up 8x, right? And this is about 2 years and I was just doing simple like demos, right? So I wish I held on to my Bitcoin. So I had a fair amount of Bitcoin, and I put it in this company because we needed working capital. But that's okay. So it's building equity value in this company. But for example, this is Minna no Bitcoin. So this is Traders Holdings. It's a public listed company. So they do equities, they do FX, and they started Bitcoin. And if you look inside, it looks really similar to our trading dashboard. So we provide a white label solution to them, and so that it's easy for them, because it's going to be difficult for them if they wanted to add Bitcoin, Ethereum, IOTA, or any of these tokens. They need to have the most latest cold wallet, two-factor authentication, all the security elements. So we provide that as a single package. big announcement soon with one of the largest financial institutions in Japan, where we will provide a white label for them as well. So that's Coin Exchange. We also have another trading platform, and it's called Cryptos. Right? So CoinX, or the Coin Exchange, CoinX, is a fully regulated exchange. So what does that mean? So for every country that has laws or regulation, we comply. So in Japan, it was about 1.5 years of, we had to hire PwC as our advisor, and then we had to hire Deloitte as our auditor. So we hired 2 of the big 4, and we're a startup. And also to apply for Japan, we hired Mori Hamada, which is the largest law firm in Japan. And our legal advisor is Anderson Mori, which is the 2nd largest. So we hired 2 of the top 3 law firms in Japan as well. So it's not scalable, but it's worth it in Japan. It's a big market. And Philippines will be the first exchange to be licensed in the Philippines as well. The Banco Central Philippines mentioned our name as their first, one of 2 exchanges that they will give license. We're also in discussions in Singapore. So Singapore will be about another year. So we know that cryptocurrency, where it touches fiat, it has to be regulated. Governments will not allow a society where people can just exchange cryptocurrencies with their own national currency. So, cryptos. So this is a crypto-only exchange. It doesn't touch fiat, right? So money in, money out will be Bitcoin, Ethereum, any of the crypto tokens. So this is scalable, right? I only need a Chinese language website because I don't need to have a Chinese bank account. I don't need to have a India bank account, countries where there's a lot of capital control, because there's already a lot of local exchanges there. People can exchange renminbi to Bitcoin, rupee to Bitcoin, ruble to Bitcoin, and then they can come to us, right? So when they come to us, we have the top 30 cryptocurrencies in the world, so they can trade in Ripple, Litecoin, Zcash, Monero, all of these. So we believe this is a much scalable business. That said, if we want to reach the masses, like in Japan, we need to be fully regulated. So right now we have a fully regulated exchange called CoinX, and we have a crypto-only exchange called Cryptos. Cryptos will become an ICO platform. Right? So I'm going to talk a little bit about our ICO, but I think ICO is one of the most disruptive ways to raise capital. Right? So I think Bitcoin, from an individual perspective, anybody who bought Bitcoin in the past and who held on to more than maybe 3 months, they've all made money. Everybody, every single one, unless you had it in on-calls, right? That's an unfortunate incident, but for example, we have 99% of all cryptocurrency in cold wallet, so there's no radio. So we're going to expand cryptos into a self-service ICO platform. What does that mean? Right? So anybody who wants to do an ICO, they can put in their credentials, their white paper, their legal memo. The only thing we will look is that it's a legal token, so it's not an equity token. It doesn't go against the SEC rulings or the MAS or the HKMA, right? So after we check that, they can do their initial offering here. So it's truly democratizing fundraising. And the beauty is, because there's already like tens of thousands of people on this platform, and they sign up for the ICO of their favorite, right? And after that, it's immediately listed. So I believe that cryptos will be the de facto standard ICO globally, because China is banning ICOs now. So all the ICO platforms in China had to shut down and close. There's a big opportunity for us right now to take that entire market. So those are two platforms that are in production. So we're a profitable company and we're expanding. But there's one big element that has not been addressed, and that is liquidity. Right? So when you look at cryptocurrencies, there's over, I don't know, anywhere 1,500 or 2,000 cryptocurrencies in the world already. Right? Everybody's familiar with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and that's about it. And even Ethereum, there's not enough liquidity. Right? There might be liquidity silos, like if it's Ethereum, Euro, you can go to Bitstamp in the UK. If you want Ethereum and Korean won, it's in BitHump. But as a person who lives in Japan, I cannot sign up with BitHump in Korea, or I can't sign up with Bitstamp, or even the US ones. For example, like our coin exchange, we don't accept any US residents, right? From a FACTA perspective, FinCEN, CFTC, OCC, like they handcuff you. I need to go state by state to get an approval. And then I gotta go like New York and get a bit license. It just doesn't make sense. I need to probably raise 50 million to just get from every state. And then I need to go to the CFTC if I wanna offer margin trading or derivatives, right? There's only one company in the crypto space that got the CFTC approval, because you need to be like a CME to get like an approval from the CFTC. The regulators have never, ever envision or imagine a world of cryptocurrencies. So none of the guidelines are capable to properly regulate. But going back, there's already 2,000 crypto tokens out there. As of today, there's 200 ICOs that are ongoing. Right? Every day there's like 3 to 5 new tokens that emerge. And they all have zero liquidity, right? Only Bitcoin or Ethereum. And as you know, like with a financial crisis or any industry, even if you have the best asset or your best run business, if you don't have liquidity and there's a crunch, you're dead, right? So what we are going to do is we're going to provide a platform called Liquid that will allow anybody from institutions, liquidity partners, hedge funds, market makers, individual traders to come and participate. What we do is here. Right? Actually, I'm going to show a video. So let's see if this works. Is there a...
I don't.
There's no. Oh no. HDMI. It's alright, then I'll use it.
We can send the link around afterwards.
Yeah, I'll send the link. So right now there's liquidity in silos. Like in certain markets there's liquidity, but in certain markets they don't. So what we have done is we've already connected 15 global exchanges, and we aggregate all of that into one single trading platform, and we call that the World Book. Right? So you don't need to now sign up with Gemini in New York, Bitstamp in London, Bitfinex in Hong Kong, or even BitHump in Korea. Right? We're already connected with all of them. Like we're connected to the top three of the 4 in the US, the largest in Europe, the largest in Hong Kong, and largest in Korea. Right? So we aggregate all of those liquidity into one. Because for example, last Monday I had a call with Goldman. And Goldman said like, hey, my son, we have a handful of institutional investors who are interested in coming in and buying large sums of cryptocurrency. There's no single platform out there that can allow a seamless transaction without disrupting the market. Coincidentally, another institutional investor in Europe came to me and said, hey, my son, can you procure the top 30 cryptocurrencies for about 50 million because he wants to short it, right? I mean, that's a bold move when you think about the trend is your friend, right? So they obviously, they know something that I don't know, but putting that aside, institutional investors, mainstream, they're all coming in, like it or not. The crypto market has always been a sacred place for ideologists, right? Free society, anti-government. Bitcoin was developed, or it came to existence in 2009 after the global financial crisis, where the world almost broke down. So the learning from that was, let's be decentralized, let's be distributed, anti-government, no central government. So those people who supported Bitcoin and Ethereum has built this entire market to be about 180 billion, right? That's a big amount, 180 billion. And Bitcoin itself is about 90 billion. But when institutional investors come in, Wall Street comes in, it's going to be 100 trillion, right? So the magnitude is different, and there's no single exchange that can have the sophisticated platform, the liquidity to do any of those things. And that's not enough, right? So when you look at this, the World Book is the one that connects and aggregates all the liquidity pools into one single trading platform. But when you talk to institutional investors, what they say is the single biggest problem is fiat management. I want to move large sums of money from an exchange to an exchange, right? Or I want to short this certain cryptocurrency. Can you procure that? Or can you give me credit so I can leverage? So none of these brokerage services. So if you work for a hedge fund, you have a prime brokerage service. You either work with Goldman or Morgan Stanley or Merrill Lynch or any of these guys who will provide those brokerage services for you. That doesn't exist in crypto, right? So we're also, in addition to the World Book, is launching an associated service called Prime Brokerage. So the combination of the World Book and the Prime Brokerage is our liquid platform. So together, we allow mainstream finance to come into the new crypto world. So we are the bridge or the intersection that really connects between the traditional Wall Street financial institutions and the new crypto world. Some people in the crypto world won't like it, but it's going to happen. It's already happening, right? So this is our liquid platform. We believe it's a financial utility that will benefit everybody. And again, a lot of the technology that we use is already, we use it at QUOINE Exchange, right? Our matching engine, our smart order routing engine, our market making engine, our currency conversion engine, all of these we already deployed on our services. So there's, as you know, like 90% of startups fail. And all these ICOs that people raise money, we know that 90% is going to fail. But we have already passed that stage. And with our liquid platform, we're doing our own ICO, and it's called the Cash Token. So this Cash Token, we believe, will be the next Bitcoin or Ethereum for the financial industry. So what does that mean? Right? So the Bitcoin blockchain is actually a proprietary blockchain that is very difficult for a programmer to build any type of application on it. You need to be like a super engineer at Google, and it will still take you 8 months or a year to understand the Bitcoin blockchain and build something on top of it. And that's why it's only these core developers that support Bitcoin. But it's okay, right? Bitcoin should be almost like a single purpose token which is disrupting currency and payments. And that's why there's a new blockchain. It's not new anymore. It's about three and a half years old. But Ethereum, right? I mean, Ethereum is smart contract. It's an easy platform for anybody who can use Java or any of the basic programming languages to build any type of service on top of it, right? So that's why some people are saying Ethereum could be larger than Bitcoin, because every industry can come on and build services, smart contracts on top of the Ethereum network. But that's actually not correct, right? When you look at financial services where performance is important, like latency is a killer, where you need node management so that the people who mine it are not concentrated in China, right? You want KYC and AML embedded. So for example, Ethereum doesn't support any of the financial programming languages. Like if you want to use Python for prediction or analytics, you want to use Lua for high performance in database programming. If you want to build sophisticated financial services on top of the blockchain, there's actually none in the world, right? So that's why we're building Cash on top of the Cash blockchain, which will have these elements embedded. So in the future, if you're a fintech company, you're going to use cloud and blockchain. Those are the two foundational infrastructures that you will build your services on top of it, right? So we believe that Cash and our Cash blockchain will be the standard blockchain for financial services. So I have no doubt that in the next couple of years, assuming we're successful, that we will be in the top 3, top 5, because other than Bitcoin and Ethereum, Ripple is also pro financial services. It works with large banks. It's trying to disrupt the SWIFT network, and that's perfectly okay. But we want to work with fintech companies. It's much more easier. It's much more collaborative. I'm done working with large banks or governments or telecoms and all these. So I prefer working with fintech companies who will make innovative new services based on our blockchain. Right. So that's where we are. So we have a roadmap. So we got our license here. We're doing our token sale November 6th. And we will launch our blockchain in 2019. And we're also going to get a banking license so that we're here to disrupt existing financial institutions. So that's where we are. I think as I showed you, our existing services, Cryptos is going to be a self-service ICO platform. It's going to be the de facto place for people to issue tokens. QUOINE is the regulated exchange. It will take time to go country by country because each country is going to start regulating it. And then we have the Liquid platform that is for mainstream finance to come into the crypto world. It's going to happen, and there's no one more suited than us. A snapshot on some numbers. So last year we did 12 billion in transaction. We'll probably do 6 or 7 billion this month, right? So you can see, like, I think by the end of the year we will do 12 billion a month. I mean, that's the level, especially with like white label and how the market is growing. So I had 60 plus people. We're actually 75 now. We have Deloitte as our global auditor. We're compliant, we're licensed. And also our cryptocurrency, our Cash token, is the first approved cryptocurrency by the Japan FSA before its initial offering. Right? So in Japan, there was this one ICO called KOMSA. And I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with KOMSA, but KOMSA was an ICO done by another exchange, but it's not approved. So people who buy KOMSA cannot trade it on any exchanges in Japan. While our Cash token from day one will be traded on global exchanges, not only us, but Bitfinex, and also it can be traded on any exchange in Japan because it's already approved by the Japan FSA as a approved cryptocurrency. So a little bit of our team. So I think I've already spoken about myself. Mario is my co-founder. He worked at Credit Suisse APAC. He was the CTO there. He was also the CIO of their Japan operations. And prior to that, he worked at Merrill Lynch. Katsu is my CFO. I brought him from Softbank. He did the Sprint deal, the ARM deal as a team leader, working directly under Masa Son. Our CSO, Ray, also he worked at Gold, so I was impressed. I was trying to look for a bank that he never worked at, right? So he started in Goldman, then he went to Merrill, then he went to Morgan Stanley, then he went to UBS, Deutsche Bank, and I'm like, which one has he not? Right? Good for him. But he actually hired Mario when he was at Merrill Lynch, so we all kind of connect our roots to Merrill. And Andre, everybody, does anybody do like FX trading? Right, so do you guys do DMM or is it GMO or SBI? So DMM, as you know, is an adult entertainment. Right, so they have half of their business is porn, and the other half is actually FX. So there's a large correlation between guys who have a lot of time, who are always in front of their screen. They have one hand trading, I don't know what that is. But the funny thing, well, I'm not sure if it's funny, but DMM, because they're essentially adult entertainment, they have no banking relationship. So they had a lot of cash through their business, but their FX business had no coverage banks. So no banks will provide them liquidity. So their FX bid-ask price, they had to absorb. Right? So they had to have a pricing elbow that was much more superior than every other FX, because every other FX will connect with Goldman or Citibank or Mizuho, and these are the liquidity partners who will provide JPY USD or USD Euro, and they'll just aggregate those and provide that as their bid ask. So Andre created the pricing system for DMM, and it says here that like 20 to 30% of all retail FX traded in Japan uses his algo, right? So his pricing algo is still used by 30% of the entire volume of Japan, and Japan is the largest retail FX market in the world, right? There's a word called Mrs. Watanabe, but they're actually all men. Right? So it's these lady boys that the world thinks that it's housewives with a lot of time and money, but it's actually these guys who just continue to trade online. Right? So that's Andre. Ken also worked at Merrill Lynch and Barclays, and Seth recently joined us from Goldman Sachs, but they also work together at Merrill. So he's going to be leading our prime brokerage service. So this is the second part of our liquid platform. So I think myself and the CFO are the only ones who haven't, in the management level, who hasn't worked at a global bank, right? So we work at Softbank and Mitsubishi and all these. And then we have some nice people who support us from the marketing side and whoa, right? So he's our chief designer. So that's who we are. And we will have our token sale November 6th. It's the first officially approved crypto token sale in Japan. I welcome everybody, right? I always tell everybody, if you're young and energetic and if you believe in the future, you should allocate 5 to 10% in crypto, right? So invest money that you're willing to lose, that you're okay with, but again, when you're long-term investors, I think there's really interesting things. Like right now, Bitcoin is what, $6,000, right? When I look at here in USD, it's $5,600, right? I think about last year now it was about $500. A year before that it was maybe $200. When Mt. Gox happened, it went down to $150. Every time I talked to anybody, they said it was a bubble, right? So it's a long bubble it's been continuing on, right? So when I look at this chart where I can change all these panels, and if I do like a 1-day chart and I make it small, and I go maybe I can go on a weekly chart. So we started in 2014 July. So this is as far as we can go on our chart. So yeah, it's been a long run. So this is when Mt. Gox happened, right? So I would say it pulled back the industry for about 1.5 years, 2 years, but now it's starting to like really take on its own life. And yeah, people can say that it's a bubble. The lead investor in Snapchat, I forgot if it was Vantage Point, one of the VCs there said one Bitcoin could be $500,000. Right? So I'm not trying to say you should all buy Bitcoin now, but cryptocurrency is something you should all at least look into, right? And maybe have a portfolio approach, have a little bit of Bitcoin, Ethereum, cash, right? I think our token will be a top 3 crypto in the near future. We're one of the few pro-regulation cryptocurrencies. Like every other cryptocurrency is going like, their heritage or their nature has always been privacy, anonymity, anti-government, free society, right? They're going darker and darker. And not in a bad way, because if I want to, for example, pay back $100, right? No one needs to know that I'm paying back $100, right? Especially if the sum becomes larger. If I want to pay back $1 million, right? There's no need, but the Bitcoin address will show you that there's 100 million there, right? So that's something a lot of people don't like. But from a regulatory perspective, they need to know everything, right? So when you believe that mainstream finance is going to come into cryptocurrencies, you want a cryptocurrency that's pro-regulation, that the issuer is not this guy called Satoshi Nakamoto, but QUOINE Corporation Japan, right? I mean, that's at least better than an imaginary person. So we believe there's an opportunity for cash to become the preferred token, at least for financial institutions, because when I talk to financial institutions, they will say, I believe in digital currencies, but I don't like Bitcoin, right? There's no accountability, who's Satoshi, right? They say it's decentralized, but when you look at the mining, over 60% is concentrated in China. So that's a China risk, right? So all these things, there's an opportunity for a cryptocurrency to go on the lighter side, pro-regulation, because 99.9% of all tokens are becoming more like privacy, anonymity, like Zcash, Monero, and all these. So with that, I conclude my introduction of myself and also my company. And thank you so much. I'm open to any questions. Oh, there's none. Please.
What is the differentiation? You talk about Ripple. To me, it sounds like very similar to B2B. They're talking to all the 100 banks. So what is the advantage, or what is?
So Ripple is the only pro-regulation token out there. That's why they're top 3. But they are towards moving large sums of money. So they're trying to replace SWIFT, right? And they're trying to work with all these banks. Hallelujah, right? I mean, I work with banks, and it's just one of the most, they'll suck up all my resources. And that's good. I mean, let them do it, right? And banks, so these incumbent established banks, they will either do a private blockchain, which I think is just, go ahead and use like Hyperledger or any of the IBM ones, or they might use Ripple, but that's fine. That's fine, right? I'm going to work with fintech startups, right? It's similar to like when the early days of cloud, right? Amazon was the preferred cloud service for startups to use. If you're a mobile app company, if you're a gaming company, you use Amazon AWS because it was easy to use, it was But if you were an established company, you will never use Amazon, right? You will use an IBM cloud, you will use an SAP cloud, or even you might have a private cloud, right? Go ahead, right? There's a big opportunity, especially in finance, where it's trillions of money that move. We want to be the preferred blockchain that FinTech companies use.
So you think they're successful in their segments?
Not yet, it's proof of concept, right?
You assume.
I assume from a token value perspective, they're already a success, right? So when you look at their market cap, which is, 8 billion? And that's only 40% of circulation, right? So if you need to add another, you need to do 2x of that, and that's the fully diluted market cap of Ripple. Good for them, right? But when you look at here, there's no other token that's working with the financial industry, and we believe Ripple will have its hands full with working with all these banks, and for us, it's a green field to work with fintech companies. Okay.
日本語でいいですか
Please. どうぞ。
先ほどトークンセールをおっしゃってたんですが、コムサは導入されてないと。で、今回御社が出すトークンセールはどういった形で導入されていると理解したのでしょうか。財務局が認めているか。
金融庁ですね。So the Japan FSA has already given us the blessing. They've put the stamp saying like your cryptocurrency is jurisai. So they've accepted our application. Where Komsa is, they're clever. They're these amazing trailblazers, but you don't want to be a trailblazer in the Japan government, right? So they already have issues with Campfire and all these ICOs, and they don't say it's a cryptocurrency. They're saying it's a mono. It's just something, right? So if it's something, you can just sell it. You don't need approval. But after you sell it, if it's not a cryptocurrency, they won't be able to trade it on their exchange. So the people who purchase Komsa are stuck. So now Komsa has to go to the FSA and say, actually, it was a cryptocurrency. It's not an asset, it's a cryptocurrency. Can you give us the blessing?
もう一点だけ。先ほどセルフ ICO プラットフォームというのがこれからローンチされると書いてますが、日本語の説明は何でしょうか。
So this is not for Japan. This is not Japan because the Japan government doesn't like a crypto-only exchange. So this, unfortunately, right, unless this cryptos also becomes regulated in Japan. So if we go that extra mile and try to get cryptos regulated as well, then we can offer this ICO platform. But the ICOs itself will need to be approved by the Japan FSA as well. So that's the challenge. It's a double-edged sword where Japan will, for example, if they approve our platform, they will now go and scrutinize each token and say, this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad. And there's two types of token that the Japan FSA really don't like. The one that are completely anonymous, like Zcash, Monero, right? So they will just never accept that. And there's another one which is around prediction, like AI prediction, because they believe it's gambling, right? It could be used for magnitude of gambling industry. So those are two types of tokens that the Japan FSA will never approve. So what I want to do is self-service, where anybody, like a gas station, they can come and launch their ICO, as long as it's not illegal from an equity token or a utility token, the Japan government won't allow it. So it's a little unfortunate. We geo-fence everything.
It's a follow-up question on that. I'm Mishan, who launches in Singapore. I didn't capture, is this IKEA self-service platform for utility or for security?
It's only utility.
And why did you decide to go that way?
Well, because it's not scalable, right? So if it looks and smells like a security or an equity, it's a security, right? So if you want to sell it to U.S. residents, you need to comply with the SEC. If you want to sell it to Singapore residents, you need to make sure that it passes the Securities Act with the MAS. So that means I'm a token issuer and I want to do an equity token, I have to go to each country of where the potential buyer is, and I need to comply. That doesn't make sense. I'd rather do an IPO.
You said that you're going to have a blockchain available for fintech companies to work with, and the time frame on that is?
2019 Q2.
So if I have a project that I want to start working on now, I gotta wait and hold my breath.
Yes, that is true. So, because when you think about it, so we did make an announcement. Let's see if it comes up. So I'm not sure if you guys know ULS. So this ULS is a public company. They went up 20% when they said they're partnering with us. Boy, we should be a public company, right? I'm like, they all get the benefit, we're like benefit with friends, right? Friends with benefit or something like that. But so ULS is like, if you guys live in the U.S., there's this company called Pivotal Labs. So Pivotal Labs is like these amazing engineer group. They helped the early days of Twitter, when Twitter had scaling issues and there were all these like fail whales, right? You can't access right now. So Pivotal Labs really helped them out. They helped Facebook and all these Silicon Valley companies. ULS is a Pivotal Labs for financial services, right, in Japan. So they do the security system of Mizuho, right? They do the work with the Tokyo Stock Exchange. These guys are these 10x engineers who don't want to work for a large company, but they're really interested in financial services. So we've signed an MOU with them to create the basic blueprint of the blockchain that is tailored toward financial services, right? And then after we do that, we're going to open up to the public. We're going to make it open source, so developers can all come and do it, right? So a year and a half to build a financial grade blockchain is actually not a lot, right? Because at least the testing period is going to be six months to a year. Right? Because you don't want another DAO or another security hole, another breach, especially when you're launching a financial service on top of a blockchain. Right? So when you say a year and a half, it might take a little longer. Yes?
Will you be able to share with us some first-hand insights on your opinion on JCoin?
Yeah, well, I think a political answer or like a real what I think?
An entrepreneur's answer.
What?
An entrepreneur's answer.
Yeah, I think it's BS, but I think it's a beautiful initiative, right? JCoin, which is that the Mizuho one, right? Or MUFJ coin. Good luck, right? I mean, why do you need that, right? It's not tradable, exchangeable. It's not supply demand based. It's pegged to the Japanese yen. What's that different from any of the Maibaraishiki digital monies that you have? What's different with Suica or any of these where it's directly charged from your bank or your credit card, right? So, but I think and the reason why they do it is because they don't like Bitcoin, right? Because Bitcoin, there's no who's Satoshi, right? Why China? So, but I think it's good as an exchange, and when they open up, we will take those guys in. We're independent, right? More tokens out there, the more business for us. So it's a great opportunity. I love it.
It's just a quick follow-up question to that. So, as I'm aware, Bitfinex has something called a US dollar tether.
Yes, tether.
It seems like it's a peg token, but it's freely tradable. So, what would be the difference between somebody going with a freely tradable token that's one-to-one with the fiat currency versus like going with cash?
I mean, so I think a peg token is okay, perfectly okay, especially if it's going to be consumed domestically. That's fine, right? Because you don't want a token that's always moving to buy at a grocery store. Right, so that's why I actually think there's going to be fiat local currencies, or even like it could be Rakuten Point, T Point. They're all kind of, the exchange rate, right? So that's kind of pegged to an extent. There's a big market for that, That's perfectly okay. But then, can I go and use like Rakuten Coin in Asia or the US? No, I can't. Right? Can I use some of these J coins? I can't. Like Tether, maybe if there's an exchange on the other side. But again, Japanese yen is pegged with the local economy, but it's moving compared to all other fiat currencies. There's 174 national currencies worldwide. Right? There's maybe 3 to 5 that are really trusted. These are the G3 fiat currencies, right? The USD, obviously, 80% of international settlement, trade finance is done in USD. Countries like Zimbabwe, they decided to let go their entire fiat system and they're using US dollar, right? When you look at Venezuela, it's in shambles. The black market is the most efficient, right? Because the hotel price, if you want to pay the local Venezuela money, it's like, it's off the roofs, right? So, but when I look at it, anything that's a store of value, and it could be like when you go to Asia, telcos have their own mobile money, right? Globe in the Philippines has GCash. Telkomsel in Indonesia has T-Cash. Like Airtel in India has Airtel Money. So these are mostly all pegged as well. So there's an opportunity for pegged currencies, and there's ones for that's purely supply and demand in a global market, and that's perfectly okay. We're an exchange, we embrace all of them. Yes.
So QUOINE looks amazing. I'm interested, as an exchange that's targeting the financial services, what's your take on next month's fork, and how do you come to that decision?
We don't come to a decision, we support all forks, right? I mean, we need to protect our customers' assets. So so that's the challenge of a consensus blockchain, where if a miner does not agree with a certain direction, they can hard fork, right? And but the Japanese media, the first fork happened in July, end of July, when Bitcoin Cash happened, right? They were talking about this as the end of the world. By the way, like Bitcoin has already died maybe 200 times, right? But that's okay. How I look at it is, so when Microsoft came with their defining product, which was Windows 95, that really changed the entire working space, where everybody now had PC, they had Windows 95. But then the year 2000 came, and there was this Nisen Mondai, and then Windows came out with Windows 2000, or Windows XP, or Windows Millennium, and all these things. So these are all different software versions, right? They could not force their users who really loved the Windows 95. So they had to support multiple versions. To me, the Bitcoin blockchain, as it evolves, there's going to be, like even in religion, there's purists, there's conservatives, there's progressive, and there's all these people who will support a certain, even if it's the same Islam, right? So it's okay for Bitcoin to have multiple software upgrades where not 100% all migrate to the new software. If you're like an Apple and you kind of force everybody to use the new iOS, that's pretty amazing. That is pretty amazing when you think about it, but everywhere else, people use different old version and all those. So Bitcoin blockchain, because it's inherently consensus driven, where there's no one like a miner or a core developer that says from this day, no other version is allowed, it's going to be like this. So as an exchange, we will have to support these.
What about the fork? What about the fork? What happens like
Yeah, no, so it's going to fork. So there's Bitcoin, there's Bitcoin Cash. Today, there could have been Bitcoin Gold, right? We don't know, it could be an orphaned, or if a miner supports it, it could be so blockchain dies if there's no one else who mines it, right? So when it forks, like all the past blockchain comes with it, but if no new miner supports the blockchain, it dies. And you call those orphan blockchain. So if that happens, that's good, right? We don't need another Bitcoin thing. But then Segwit 2x, which will happen next month, that's going to be a hard fork, and it's contentious, right? So there's the core developers, who believe that Bitcoin should have a single purpose utility.
Yeah, I think so.
Perfect, right? And there's other people who think Bitcoin should be embraced from a commercial perspective. A lot of people should use it, right? Rather than a side chain or these other things that will enhance the network, the Bitcoin blockchain itself should upgrade and become bigger. Like the Windows software, right? When things become gigabytes and petabytes and all those, you need to upgrade. So there's a commercial, people who support it as a commercial perspective, and people who look at it from a conservative perspective. And there's no way to get around it. So it's going to split. It's going to be, and this time it's going to be contentious. Right? But it is what it is.
How are you going to name each chain?
I don't name it. It's the market's going to name it, right? So it can be, but I do get calls from the core developers and also the miners saying, when it splits, can you support the core Bitcoin as BTC and the other one as BTC2 or like BT2X, right? But what we should support is the longest blockchain, right? So if the segwit 2x, the larger blockchain, becomes the main blockchain, that should be the BTC. That's what I think. But then again, it becomes a wholly religious war, where as an independent exchange, we should not get into it.
Hi, question. So you raise money through the ICO. What do you use the proceeds for?
Yeah, so the public sale starts in 12 days, right? So I think this is the best one. So 50% is going to be used for liquidity. What does that mean? Right? We connect with 15 other exchanges. And in this industry, there's no industry guideline. There's no code of conduct that everybody works on, right? So if we connect with the largest exchanges, we need to put deposit there, right? So it's reserve capital, it's a balance sheet. Because when an institutional investor comes in and puts a big buy or sell order, and if I cannot match it internally with our own user base, I will connect with these exchanges. They will not give me credit. They will not extend me like Bitcoin. I would have to have a deposit there. So the proceeds that we raise, half of it will go for liquidity, which means reserve capital. But over time, we're building global alliances with these large exchanges. And between these exchanges, we'll have a credit system, or like a netting out, or like an IOU, right? So that we can, managing fiat is one of the most difficult things, right? And that's why over time, that's why there's an opportunity for cryptocurrencies as well, but the proceeds we need is order to fill those orders. But over time, it doesn't mean as our transaction grows, we need to raise more capital, because there's going to be more internal matching, and also between these exchanges, there's going to be these credit lending facilities that we will all agree to. That said, for example, Bitfinex can be hacked again. Bitstamp can be hacked again. The counterparty risk will still be there. Okay.
You mentioned since China has banned Bitcoin, that's creating a lot of opportunities for the platform. You might elaborate a little more around the opportunities and obstacles you see that's coming, because it's not legal in China.
Sorry, I missed the second part.
You might elaborate a little bit more on the opportunities as a result of that policy.
Yes.
And of course the obstacles that comes with it.
Okay. So everything China bans is gold. Right? Twitter, Facebook, Google, Amazon. It means the impact is so large that they need to control. So it's almost a proof of stake that cryptocurrency and ICOs are here to stay, and unless they ban it, their communism foundation will be disrupted, right? So it's a huge opportunity. That's why after the initial couple of weeks where the price of Bitcoin really moved down, it's been the highest since. Every time China says we're going to suspend this, we're going to crack that, we're going to ban this, it shoots up. Because it means that it's real, right? It's a big opportunity. And Bitcoin is above and beyond China now, right? And by the way, China's pretty amazing. I mean, I love them, right? They don't ban mining.
They might like 2/3 of Bitcoin already, right?
Hmm?
They might 2/3 of Bitcoin.
Of course. So they don't mind it because it brings in capital, right? From a Chinese communist, if it's minting money, they're going to allow it, right? So I would see in the next, I don't know, half year, a year, China might come with their own exchange, a state-owned exchange. They'll probably come up with their own currency as well. I mean, that's how I look at it, right? But the other interesting thing, when I was talking with Jihan. Jihan is the CEO of Bitman and Antpool. They're the largest ASIC provider for Bitcoin mining. So amazing, he lives in Singapore, right? So he's already out of the Chinese, not the threat, but the confinement or the prison. But he's already living in Singapore, and we met at Starbucks, and he's such a low-profile guy. He was mentioning the Chinese government owns 10% of Bitcoin. Right? They banned it, but they own 10%. Bitcoin is 95 billion now, so they have close to 10 billion of Bitcoin. Right? So again, they own they're one of the biggest creditor of U.S. bonds, treasuries, and all these as well. So yeah, that's how I look at it. China is one of the most efficient communism economic countries in the world. They're really good at cutting corners, right, in a good way. So I think it's so the obstacles is still two things. Regulation is no longer a risk or challenge or obstacle, it's the banking relationship. Right? For example, I have no banks in Singapore. I started my company in Singapore, I had 8 banks, and they all closed us down. Once our volume becomes like more than $1 million and people start depositing like millions of dollars, they're like, what's this company? And they search your website and it's Bitcoin. Ooh, 0 tolerance. So I have no bank accounts. And so I opened a subsidiary, and it has nothing to do with cryptocurrency. It's an AI, machine learning, and payments processing. They find out, right? I opened 5 bank accounts as a subsidiary, it's all closed. And they'll say, Mike, what are these deposits? What's the nature? What's the source of funds? What is it used for? They'll find out, right? So that's the biggest challenge. Because our KYC, the Japanese bank tell me, so I have 6 bank accounts in Japan. But 2 years ago, people called me a criminal, money launderer. So I wasn't able to open a bank account in Japan 3 years ago. But now things have really changed. And banks are telling me my KYC is better than theirs. Right? We use Thomson Reuters, WorldCheck, we use this SaaS KYC sphere that scours all the internet to see if you're a politically exposed person or not. Right? So we have the best KYC, AML, and counter financing of terrorism. We have the best. Right? Rather than these manual guys who are looking, this guy looks a little strange, like pervert. Right? We're much better, but Singapore is 0 tolerance. They just not allow that. Right? And that's the case with most countries. And so bank is the biggest risk. And I'm not sure if it's from a compliance perspective or they feel threatened. It's a combination of both.
Hi Mike, I'm Andy Tian, and then just caught you here.
Oh my God, we're supposed to meet.
Yeah.
You canceled me.
I flew, man.
I'm joking, we're supposed to meet.
Yes. No, it's just so does Japanese, just follow on that, very interesting, does Japanese banks allow crypto company tokens to open up?
Of course. Other than Mizuho. Because Mizuho is the counterparty of a big litigation with Mt. Gox.
Ah, so,
right?
Wow, okay.
But they still love J-Coin. They still love J-Coin.
So that could be, that is actually the single biggest, if that's single biggest attractor, complement tokens, right?
Yes.
So for just the gravity.
Yeah, exactly. So Japan is, I have no doubt Japan will be the crypto world. Like first and foremost, Japanese love FX. Like Mrs. Watanabe Misters, right? So they love FX. Right? And they also love loyalty programs. Like amazing, there's so many like T-Point, Honda, everywhere I go, like, you want to open a T-Point account? No, right? The utility's not there, and I don't even live in Japan, right? I mean, if they give me Bitcoin, I'll be like, of course I will, right? But the familiarity with Japanese people on these loyalty programs, on these digital type of these store of value is really above and beyond any other place in the world. Right? So there's a natural familiarity within Japanese to embrace cryptocurrencies. And the ecosystem is there. Like, there are so many Japanese millionaires now. Right? When Mt. Gox happened, there were only 2% of the people in Mt. Gox were Japanese. 30% were actually Australian. Poor guys. But, so the Japanese people, the 2%, yeah, they were hurt, but it created awareness. So a lot of people who were like looking for the next big thing, and they were kind of like tired with FX, they all came in. And they've all became millionaires, right? And there's a word in Japan called okuribito. So they all own oku, 1 oku yen, okuribito. So there's a lot of Japanese people who are millionaires now, and they want to use it, right? So they want to use it at big camera. I'm not sure if they want to go to Marui and buy these fashion clothes, like, but that's why a lot of places are starting to accept cryptocurrencies, right? So that said, from a payments perspective, from a utility perspective, it's going to take more time. When I talked with Meki, they said for the Olympic, 2020 Olympic, they want to expand the payment option to also accept cryptocurrencies rather than replacing all these ATMs that are only like you can use for Japanese like bank cards and all these things, right? So if you can use with QR code, with Bitcoin or crypto, that's a payment option that they would like to support.
Hi, Mr. Kayamori. Just a little precision on the token sale. Is this going to be 500,000 Ethereum hard cap, first come, first served basis? And the second question is, how is your relationship with the new economy movement, XEM?
XEM or NEM?
How is your relationship with them?
We have a wonderful relationship
Okay.
because they want to list it on our exchange. Every token issuer reaches out to us, saying like, Mike-san, how can we be on the first fast track? Like, how can we be listed in Japan? Japan is going to be very difficult because I have to go to the FSA and say, please, right? These are all the list of the tokens that I want to list. And they'll say, who is this issuer? Who's this being? What is it used for? Being? Right? So it's very difficult. So Japan will have a Jishukisei Dantai, which will have an association that will whitelist all these cryptocurrencies so that the Japan FSA don't have to say this is good, this is bad, this is good, this is bad. So that's one. NEM is something that we already offer in cryptos outside of Japan. And hopefully in Japan because it's already a top 10, right? It's top 10 currency, so that's good. From our how much we're raising, right? So actually the ICO bubble is already bursting. The first euphoria of wow, it's the best thing since sliced bread is already gone now. Like every ICO, people thought it would be like gold. It's no longer. Right? Because the reality is it's not different from any other startup. 90% will fail. They're starting to realize that companies that raise enormous amount of money are having these issues now, and some are running away. And like China was pretty amazing, right? They will look at a US ICO, and they will download the white paper, copy and paste it, and they will launch it a month before. Right? It's pretty amazing how efficient they are. Right, but the difference between it also happened with like Kickstarter, right? If you guys are familiar with Kickstarter, so this is like crowdfunding for like really cool gadgets in the U.S. and you fund it and you get this new, and it's always delayed and 90% fail and all these things. But Chinese EMS will actually look at Kickstarter for idea, right? So while Kickstarter is still raising money, Chinese pumping up product, the same product out, and they're selling it, right? So that's the pretty amazing thing of China. And they were doing that with ICOs as well. So now they're all bad. So that's good. But that said, the initial euphoria and like every ICO is going to be 10x, 20x, 1000x, those are gone. So and it's also like the public sale is the easy part, right? You do digital marketing and people support, but there's a private sale before that. And this is similar to an IPO where you want some big institutional investors who will be your anchor long-term holders of your token, right? So what I do every day right now is I do calls after calls after calls with these large ICO participants so that they will support our token and they will be long-term holders. And so for example, right now I do this private pre-sale, and that's taken a lot of my time. And like when I think about it, I really underestimated how difficult ICO is. So we'll see if we can reach that hard cap, but fortunately I have 50 million committed already.
Just going back to the China risk that you mentioned a few times, with cash, how would you sort of prevent a similar situation where the majority of the blockchain is mined in China?
Well, so the proof of work is how Bitcoin works, right? And Ethereum is also proof of work, which means that the people who work, who are essentially miners, will control the nodes and all those. So the industry is migrating towards proof of stake, where if you own more, you have more say, and you can become the node. Ethereum is trying to do a migration from proof of work to proof of stake, but it's taken about a year and a half. It's that difficult. So one thing that we will do, and sorry that we're talking about many things, but when we look at our cash blockchain, one thing you can see as number 2 is node management. So this is one of the most important things where we will make sure that the node will not be controlled by a certain country. Well, it will not be dominated. We haven't decided whether any country can be at 25% or would it be 10%. We haven't discussed on what is the best threshold, right? But the things that we will put in our blockchain will have a KYC AML that's embedded as a hygiene, right? We'll have node management, then we'll have these financial service features like matching engine, like market data distribution, like all these things that currently don't exist in Ethereum are the things that we will put in. Okay.
My question is coming from the perspective of an individual or investor, or this is another company. And as you know, there's so many platforms that give people already access to cryptocurrency markets. But from then on, it's really a jungle, right? It's a new market, it's volatile. There isn't a whole lot of information out there on cryptocurrency. As you also mentioned, the fact that the likes of Goldman Sachs and institutional investors coming into all these secret block tradings. So this black box element still cryptocurrencies for the average user.
So what is an average user, right? Is it just I want to sell 5 or 10 Bitcoins, or is it I'm an average trader, right? I do like active trading.
Non-institutional average person who wants to invest.
Yeah, so I would say that there's going to be a big opportunity for decentralized exchanges, right? Where it doesn't need to be centralized because I don't need performance. I don't care about latency or the speed of internet across nodes, right? Where there's arbitrage opportunities for these hedge funds. So if I'm just someone who wants to buy a few Bitcoins or exchange Bitcoin to Ethereum, cross-chain executions, there's a fair amount of decentralized exchanges, and they will do a smart contract, atomic swap, right? So that's okay. But when you look at the real the future of finance and traditional finance, right? Exchanges are consolidated because they cannot keep up with high frequency trading. Like this millisecond difference can really kill a platform, right? So when these guys start coming into crypto, right, they are gonna like shred exchanges that have low performance, and even if it's centralized. So I would say even in the crypto space, there's going to be a fair amount that's going to be decentralized exchanges. where there's no like central bottleneck or a security like a place, or and then there's going to be a big centralized exchange. Like aggregating liquidity is going to be, it has to be centralized, right? So I would say from a volume perspective, it's all this side. So I would say 90% will be centralized, institutional, and 10% will be decentralized.
Yeah, my question was, so how do you envision your company going forward in terms of providing advisory or sort of investment solutions to kind of a more sophisticated type of user, like
Yeah. So the beauty is like I really love Jamie Dimon. Right? He's been shorting Bitcoin for the past 5 years. It's amazing how he still has his job, right? And like he was one of the guys during the financial crisis, and like they were sued $8 billion or something from the government, right? And he was the CEO there. It's amazing how he's still there. But putting that aside, he's going to fire everybody at JP Morgan that buys Bitcoin or crypto. Those guys will join us, right? So that's an opportunity. So I actually want us to be JP Morgan, Chase of cryptocurrency. There's an institutional element. So we're institutional. There's an investment banking. There's a prime brokerage element for institutional investors because that's where the volume is going to come. That said, the big opportunity for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is the underbanked and unbanked. When you look at global, the social impact that blockchain and blockchain-based financial services, where you don't need branches, you don't need agents, right? As long as everybody will have a smartphone, and if you have a wallet, you can provide financial services to the masses. So that's why it sounds a little cheesy, but we have a big institutional customer base. So this is the JP Morgan side. But then we want this Chase side, which is the retail side, right? And also the exchange, which is the NASDAQ and the Euronext. So I envision, if we're successful, that we will be a financial conglomerate in the crypto space, right? That's why I'm hiring guys who are CTOs at Morgan Stanley, who were executive directors at Deutsche Bank, right? Who worked at Barclays, because I can't do it myself. And as the more Jamie Dimon fires these guys, they can join us, right? And it's a good thing that we start in Asia, because in the US, I will need to spend $50 million to just start an exchange in the US. Right? Yes. Oh.
So, one last question. Just curious. One of the things I'm seeing is that it's awesome to have new exchanges coming up. This is for specific investors. Have you thought about because of the prevalence of crypto for the masses, have you thought about how to address the huge and massive retail out there who don't understand what crypto is, and perhaps introduce them to the...
Yes, good point, right? So for example, my father-in-law, right? He's a professor emeritus at Waseda, right? So he's like international politics. He's written like 80 books. He really supports me, but he doesn't know how to open a bank account. Like he doesn't know how to open an account with me because he still uses a feature phone. Right? He still doesn't want to admit that smartphone is better than a feature phone. Right? So he can't upload his documents taking a camera phone. Right? So unfortunately anyone over 60 here? 70 and above are unfortunately not our target customers, right? But that said, there's this 40 to 60, 65-ish, where you're kind of stuck in between, right? Where you have a loan, a mortgage, a stable family, a job. There's no need to come to crypto, right? I look at the millennials, the Generation X's, and the people who will need to create wealth going forward. So those will be our customers, and also people in emerging markets, developing countries. And for those, that's why we are an exchange. I'm not in payments. I'm not going to be in crowdfunding. I'm not going to be in peer-to-peer lending. I'm not going to be in social insurance. I'm not going to be in any of those. I want those guys to build services on top of the cash blockchain. And the beauty of these fintech companies is they want to collaborate. Like these traditional banks, they'll say, first come to my branch. I'll give you my cash and the booklet, right? Don't go to anywhere else, right? MUFJ, Mizuho, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, they want to create they want this information asymmetry and they want to capture you, right? So they can sell you products with higher fees, right? But that's not going to be the case for millennials. They're going to look at comparison and they're going to pick the best of breed. So it's going to be, finance is going to be, all the services is going to be unbundled, right? And those are going to be for the younger generation. And that's why I want everybody in the world, in Japan or global, to buy, sell, use, send Bitcoin or crypto, right? At a convenience store, at an ATM, at a post office. I can't do that myself. That's why we're a B2B exchange. So everybody can connect with me because they need liquidity, right? So that's how I want to start. Okay.
I have one question.
Yes.
Is the traditional exchange, as we have at the moment, we have certain rules in the exchange. Under certain conditions, the exchange might close, or there are certain scenarios that they impose. In the case of cryptocurrency, obviously there are no rules. Would you envision any regulatory side, like?
Also in Japan, there are rules now, right? So because as a regulated financial service now, there are certain things that the Japan government wants, right? Incident management, circuit breakers, so a lot of things. Because the challenge is, when you look at the equity market, starts up at 9:30, 9 o'clock, and finishes at 3. Wow. 3:30, right? That's pretty amazing. That's so. We're 24/7, 365.
And we have a break.
Have a Kit Kat, right? So crypto, there's no break. So it's a challenge when you want to do a system upgrade and maintenance. It's difficult because you can't do it. Even FX, they don't operate during the weekends, right? So we will do like periodic maintenance, but we have to put in a lot of measures now. There's a lot of bad investors. There's a lot of bad behavior hedge funds who take advantage, right? In traditional finance, a lot of these illegal trading patterns where like you show a big sell order, but you pull it out, or you put you kind of do force a margin call so that it cascades down, and you buy it at the end because you started it, because it will come back to the average, to the mean again, right? So all these things that are illegal in traditional finance, it's still the wild west. So as part of becoming a regulated exchange, we started at freezing these accounts and like purging these guys out because these guys are so bad. Like the retail investors are the ones who get hurt, right? So these things still, it's still very early. So Japan is putting those measures in, like monitoring systems, and they're forcing exchanges to do that. When you go global, it's still the wild west. So it is a challenge, but again, it's still very early, and that's also, but you will never get this kind of a return in other markets, right? So go ahead.
Sorry, just one more which is related to, and what's actually happened with liability? Like for example, as you said, if you have maintenance, if the exchange goes down, and then obviously your clients or customers lose out on that one, and that will have an impact.
Yeah, so we had issues in the past as well where there's like system glitches where like our partner exchange goes down. So the price feed that comes in goes out of whack, right? And then there's these hedge funds who will try to take advantage of that, right? So when it goes down, they'll just put a lot of buy orders, and the people who matched it were like sold at an adverse price. So when these anomalies happen, we put in the terms and condition that we will revert it back. Right? So when these incidents happen, we'll put it back. Right? So no one, like, because we're an exchange, if someone makes profit, someone else is losing. Right? So for those situations, we just cancel it out. But a lot of people are not happy with that, especially when they make money. Right? But when they're on the losing side, they're like, hallelujah, like, thank you so much, right? So we do have one litigation in Singapore where one of these hedge funds took real advantage when the price went down, and they matched with another hedge fund. Right? So it's like these hedge funds going against each other. But we canceled that order. They never even came to us, they just went directly to the court. and they said every trade should be final, right? So we'll win that. But again, there's all these things are still happening, right? So incident management, security, social engineering, where people take over your ID and password and your phone, and they withdraw Bitcoin, that will happen, right? So that's exactly an opportunity for him. So there's hardware wallets, there are all these other things. So we store all Bitcoin, not all, 99% of our Bitcoin in a cold wallet. We also don't allow people to put a new Bitcoin withdrawal address. We whitelist them. We only allow people to put in 3 Bitcoin addresses because we're not a wallet, right? We don't have to have dynamic Bitcoin addresses for people to withdraw. So there's a lot of things you can do at the network level, product level, and the operational level. And we do that because most of our management team are from banks. Like for example, I think it's a private session, but Bitfire is sued right now, right? Because there's multi-millions hacked, right? There's a class action. There's a litigation, multiple litigation going on with Bitfire right now because they did not honor security. Despite they're putting all these banners saying we're the safest in the world or Japan, they've been hacked millions of dollars, right? So that is a big problem. And it will show, people will tell us, Mike-san, your exchange takes 24 hours. Why are you asking all these things? Bitfire is immediate. Yeah, that's what hackers want, right? Immediate withdrawals. Right? We can't say, hey, go to Bitfire and get your stuff stolen. But we say, hey, security is a big issue. There's a lot of these social engineerings, narismashi, so we need to make sure that our customer assets are protected. There's a lot of risk around this. I would say a lot of risk. So you need to select the right exchange to put your Bitcoin or trade. And I actually don't think withdrawing it to your own account is the best. People forget their password, forget their all these things, and when you have so many of things where you need to put your password, essentially there's four things. It's your mother, your family, your brother, or your maiden name, or all of that is in Facebook. Right? A hacker will take maybe 3 minutes and they can just get all of your stuff out, right? So if you manage it, right, and I can say that as an exchange, security is the single biggest, other than performance, security is the single biggest thing that we are most concerned of. So we will put all our efforts into security. If you manage your own Bitcoin, do you really think of security? Maybe some might, if you have thousands of Bitcoins, but other than that, I think it's more safer to put it in a good exchange, right? Especially if they have insurance or something. All right, I think we're done. So thank you so much.